finance meeting to order at 7:04. Tonight will be mainly 2029 budget. Did you bring
2029.
2021, did I say? Did I say 9?
I thought I heard 9.
I thought I heard 9 in there too. I was like, wait a minute.
What, are we supposed to have like a 10-year plan?
Yeah, that's one way to do it.
2021 budget. Just want to start going over the line item.
Go ahead.
Just remember, there's no page numbers. Don't get too out of
I
line.
think-
So you're good with all of it?
Well, no, I think, I'm good for the first quarter, cause ultimately that's what we have to adopt initially. And then,
Yeah, I want to change it all though.
You have a copy with you, Tom?
no, mine's at the house.
You need one?
No, well, if you have one, extra one.
We can just run over real quick.
No, I'm not worried about that, long story, but, you know, I'm good. The reality is the budget's potentially gonna change regardless if we adopt, we have to adopt the first quarter anyway. 'Cause the budget potentially is going to change anyway before, you know, we adopt the full budget. I mean, once we get actual numbers and we start the new year and see how that's going, we'll probably, I'm sure we'll make new adjustments as we go.
Okay, whatever you want to do. It's all you.
It is.
Your show?
Are you guys have to pitch in too?
Oh, yeah, I'll be pitching in.
Oh, I'm sure. You want to share?
No, I'm
Okay.
good.
So my first question, I guess, was, start on page 1, the police uniforms. Why don't they have any money for uniforms?
It's rolled up into the salaries. And the idea is, and this is preliminary because we don't have the, contract approved yet, but right now we have proposed taking away the uniform allowance and just buying their uniform items as they're broke and replacing them. Currently, it's just an $800 bonus to them that they go out and buy whatever they want.
And that, which, we had this discussion in a police and fire meeting at one point with the chief about how, you know, they all had different, not all their uniforms were matching in uniform, throughout the city. He wants to see everybody have the same gear, same uniforms.
Right.
Well, I guess that's why I figured they would need money for that.
Well, yeah, but that's true,
And they're rolled up somewhere else in there too.
but they haven't, that's not how, unfortunately, that's not how it's been done in the past. How it's been done is they give them the money and they're required to go out and buy it, but everybody goes out and buys probably the cheapest stuff so they can keep the most money themselves, and then everybody ends up wearing different types of styles and.
So when they get that figured out, we'll have to appropriate
Hey,
more
Carter,
money.
can you
Is that-
talk into the mic, please? We just got a request out there.
So, also the police department, at least this year, you can see here uniforms has not been has not been a used line item. They just have rolled into, operating supplies. So when we hired new police officers this year, you have to start them with their initial equipment, their first set. I don't know, I mean, I don't know all the particulars, but I just know they get a first set of stuff.
It's about $3,000 to initially outfit a new officer. So I apologize, I misspoke. It wasn't in the wages, it's in operating.
Operating.
And, so that's one of the reasons why operating was used so much in police this year, because there was a lot of hiring.
Okay. I might be putting two lines together, so you'll have to correct me if I do, but,
Okay.
About 3/4 of the way down the body cams, why were they 18,000 last year?
It wasn't, I was gonna have you guys rename that line item, that's what other was.
Oh.
And so I'd rather not have other, I'd rather just use that for body cams, and then we don't have another.
Gotcha.
Which is just a follow-on, you guys already requested to do that anyways in the previous ordinance.
We don't need that much in that line item though, do we? 'Cause-
So 7,100 is,
Oh, okay,
7,100
fair
is the,
enough.
actual
Yeah.
licensing fee.
Right.
Yeah.
For, just the backstory, 2020, that was just a other line item that was created and had a bunch of money in there when Eddie retired, and it's just been used for miscellaneous stuff. That's the only reason it got racked up that high.
Okay.
truck payment will actually come off of there.
Which one
Correct.
is that?
Correct, if he pays off the chief's truck, then that one.
810. On page one.
Oh,
Right above bond
11,000?
fields. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now, are we gonna leave that line item though for future?
I mean, so when we get rid of line items, they just get marked inactive, so we can always remove, bring back, rename.
Well, where are you gonna put the money?
The 11,000? Well, I bet Fitch.
Don't suck it up in the general fund.
No, I'm saying, that's an assumption there. I bet Fitch would have probably 17 ideas though.
I think he's probably got 19.
Yeah.
So
we
we could
just-
almost put that towards his capital improvement.
Correct, we just came to the determination of the truck in the last 24 hours, so
Mhm.
it hasn't, that piece hasn't translated onto this budget yet, as far as what that plan is.
Sure.
There's
Okay,
if I can follow up on, actually, Fitch probably does have a ton of ideas, but we have a $9,000 cruiser payment for the USDA bond that we did not get included in this first draft, so that probably
Oh.
fits anyway.
There you
There you
go.
Very good.
Still got 2,000 left, right?
Right. I made sure to write that down, I just,
I'll
something
take
that
that
just slipped
cash.
my mind.
Did you guys have any questions on the first 3 pages?
Mhm.
All right, so what page you on now?
I think page 4, it ends in 100, 370, 1001, I think.
Yeah, I put page numbers on mine when I did that.
The next draft's gonna have page numbers.
Are you still good?
Well, I'm looking at code enforcement real quick.
Is that after the police?
Scott made sure to increase some of
Right
codes,
underneath the,
codes operating items and to
Yeah.
give her ability to,
yeah, 'cause I think last year she had like maybe, what, $500 in fuel, something like that,
yeah, well, and
or
I think.
$100 in fuel or some shit. stupid.
Yeah, and there was almost nothing in operating, and so Scott, Becky have been working to make sure there's money available to board stuff up and et cetera.
Are you good with that one?
Now, real quick, back to our previous conversation about the, CARES Act money that we were gonna utilize. When you're talking about the chief's truck, is that also a justified expense on there? Or is that, we're actually paying that out of our monies that we have in that line item currently?
I guess I don't understand.
For the chief's truck, you.
Is that CARES money?
You wanted to.
Yes.
So that'll be CARES money too, so that'll be nice.
Right, so the chief's truck, which the 11,000, that 11,000 no longer be needed for the CARES money, or for the, chief's truck. Now it's needed for the cruisers that we forgot to put in.
Okay, perfect, yeah.
So right, and we just found out that it's a justified expense. I got a couple legal opinions from other cities where their attorneys or solicitors have gone through and marked it up. And our case is extra strong considering that we've crashed 2 cruisers during COVID. Had we not crashed those 2 cruisers during COVID, it would have been, in my opinion, I wouldn't have
You want
risked it for
city
the
council
city.
now?
I am, yeah.
But, and those other cities, they've been successful in those attempts, like they're not getting any monies
Correct.
clawed back or anything?
Correct. There's Gallia and Urich are the 2 that we have for police vehicles, and Urich was the one for the utilities vehicle. And I'm sure there's more out there. Those are just the ones that I get. So I get a weekly bulletin in the email that says, these are what other cities are doing with CARES money, you know, to kind of generate ideas. And then when I see something that aligns with what we were trying to get, I just reach out to their mayor or whoever, you know, is in charge and get a copy of it.
Perfect, that's great.
So, and I'll stack their copies. Basically, I'm gonna copy and paste the wording into our own letterhead. And then I still wanna stack their letters, even though it's not for our city, but for another city, so.
Spread
if-
it.
So if somebody launches a rocket to take our ship down, we're gonna take others down with us.
Great.
So, moving on down, Mayor's Court, why is that salary doubled? Or 1,000 away from doubled?
I mean, oh, well, for one thing, that's, imagine what you actually paid, correct?
It's closer to what we, thought Nancy would work, because Angie, there were whole months this summer, we didn't even really work her, because Mayor's Court was canceled.
Oh.
Well,
because-
not only that, but let's face it,
So
she
the
didn't do that
seven's,
many.
the seven's what you actually spent, not what was budgeted last year, that was.
Yeah, well, her,
7 is, I believe this set of numbers is
I like to actually
budget
look at-
numbers as of November 10th. So that was the 2020 budget on the left side.
So that's what was budgeted.
no, that's not what was budgeted.
And
Can't
that's
be.
what was spent.
Well, that sounds about
Yeah.
right, cause I
Yeah,
thought it was like
that's what-
I
Not,
thought it was like
that's as of
$6,000.
11/10, so if there were any adjustments made since 11/10, which only you guys can do, that's what these numbers are on the left.
Is it an hourly position?
Yeah,
Mhm.
Okay.
but Angie only showed up 4 or 5 hours a week. And that's obvious by the pile of work that's in there. Cause there's a stack this tall of, cases that were never.
It's still a 20-hour
Small.
position though, or?
Well, technically, part-time's 32, but, once she gets caught up on Angie's stuff, then I think 20 will work, which is 12,000 more something.
I think too, the expectation is.
Well, Mayor's Court now, if I average over the last 3 months, we probably took on the books an average, just an average, probably 3,500 a month. So if you did that average as a month, then that's gonna give you 42 a year versus a couple hundred a month that we're
Well,
doing.
I do wanna make sure that we're distinguishing between what people owe and what people have actually paid though, right?
Well, yeah, so their payment plans are no more than a year. So within a year's time, it'll all be paid off. So no matter what we put on the books. Now, I believe she said last month she actually collected $4 grand from people, so.
That's the number we were just talking about, that's
Yeah.
what he's bumped up to 20,000, correct?
So if it's 32-hour a week, it's 19,000 something, okay? With all the work that she's catching up on, I can see that, but once we have the program in line and all of Angie's work, or the old stuff is caught up, then the new stuff should be easily.
Yeah, just, the thing is though, at 32 hours, does that make her eligible for
Yeah,
benefits?
that's part-time,
Is it still part-time?
yeah.
Okay,
32 is the cutoff.
okay.
Yeah, so Scott had this conversation this week. Mayor's Court's one of those things where long-term we'll have to, figure out,
Well, I think-
how to make more financial sense, because of like the prosecution cost is more than the Mayor's Court brings in.
Well, you're paying the prosecutor no matter what.
Right, I just mean that in general, I mean, like this year, or let's take last year, for example.
You can't, because Johnson didn't bring anybody to Mayor's Court.
So even at the rate you're bringing in though, it would be 20 or 30,000. We wouldn't bring in 42 at the current rate. So I guess what I'm saying is that if you have 25 plus 20, that's just to cover the cost of the people in the room. We'll have to figure out some sort of.
Yeah,
Well,
and I think
right.
having the software, when we get that up and running, and we get Sarge fully operational, I think that it'll create more efficiencies
Oh, no,
in
no.
time and enable us to, and if the police continue to write citations like they are, then that's helpful. I understand your concern. I think we have some solutions in the works for that,
Yeah.
but nothing as of right now, so.
Well, right now, so our police department now is writing, I think last week, or last Mayor's Court, at least, like I said, at least 21 citations. That's more than they wrote all last year. So, I mean, they are diligently bringing more people into Mayor's Court, is what I'm saying.
So did we find out, wasn't we gonna look at that, what was it called, the line item for the computer, and to put some money into that each time?
So there is so there's a fee, and like I said, all that is broken down by the state, so once I
Is
get.
it under operating supplies here, or?
We had it as computer fund, didn't we?
Yeah,
It's
there's
a separate
computer
fund. So at that meeting, I did ask, and I did ask in writing too,
Mhm.
that Mr. Hunter pull the ordinance or the state law or whatever it is that guides on that, because as far as I can tell, long before even this year, I mean, years before this year, is the last time we made a contribution to that fund, so I don't really know what it comes from. It's one of those things where you like open a closet and you're like, where did this come from?
Right.
Right.
So I'm glad we have the money to spend on the software, but if we're supposed to be putting a certain percentage of certain citations, I don't know what those are.
Right, and that's what I'm saying, this computer program will tell you all that.
So shouldn't we have a line item for it, I mean?
It's under a different fund, so this is the one, so the first line of numbers is the fund, so it's 100 general fund. So
Well, I thought it was under mayor's court.
It
You would
is,
think.
there's departments within the general fund. So the mayor's court fund is like 800.
That should be under.
You would think it's in mayor's court. I'm sorry, what's it
Oh,
under?
that's
Jim?
still the general fund, right?
Well, actually, I might not even have it on here because we might not, I wouldn't have received a request to budget it. This is what we built. But it's the 910 fund. So after the software, it'll have 3,000 or something like that. Maybe
I
two.
just didn't wanna forget about it, cause you know, there may be like updates some year to that software.
Right, well, there is a
right.
license.
And it's on the cover page. This is just appropriation, so the cover page here shows you every fund, every single one, even the ones with $0. But these are the lines that we actually have something set in to spend because a department head would have told us.
We have
Or,
that blank too.
what is it?
Yeah, that one blank too, 910.
Right, well, I mean, nothing was sent to us to say set aside money next year, so we didn't set aside.
Yeah, but you still should have money left over from even after a purchase. So that money should show up in here.
Are you talking about the estimated end balance? Or,
Well, so,
because there's no beginning balances on here.
well, there should be a beginning balance, because after we buy the software, there's still money left over. That should be,
Should be about $2,000.
yeah.
But yeah, I'm not arguing that, but this doesn't have that on there. This doesn't have beginning balances on it. That's what I'm saying.
That just has budgeted amounts, right?
Yeah, and it's got an estimated end balance for most of the funds. I didn't put one for the 910, I didn't put one for CARES Act either, I mean, those.
Cause we
that's
don't
stuff-
know.
That's stuff we can still work out.
Yeah, so he didn't, these are just budgeted amounts on here, so since there's nothing there, since he didn't do anything budgeted. And actually, that software, Dan, do we need to have, annual updates to it? So do we need to
So,
set
yeah,
money
so
aside?
there's a licensing fee, and what I'd say it was 12? Was it 12?
It was at least 1,000, I can't
It was like
remember.
1,200, I think, the licensing fee.
Okay, so we should really budget, I wanna say it was like $12.50, now that you say that.
Something like that.
So,
I'd have to
we
look at the emails.
I think we should budget at least $12.50 in that mayor's court computer fund.
I can do that.
Cause I think you're right, I think it was like $12.50.
You know, and we can certainly take a percentage of the court cost out of some of that stuff put for that fund to cover.
So Scott, did we have any questions yet?
Nope. Still good to go.
I can't wait till that's all cleaned up, there's a lot of line items
Yeah.
scrapped from there. It's gonna be good.
Did you turn the page?
I think she turned twice, so.
Well, there was nothing on.
That's okay. You keep it.
At least I brought mine.
Yeah, I know. I don't have a truck right now. City Hall, she's on City Hall.
624? Sorry, 100-624.
Yep.
Sorry.
Mhm.
So, I guess I don't wanna jump ahead, but with you saying, like, we don't really, well, I mean, we need to take it to council, I guess, but we're not real comfortable with leaving the general and capital 95 and 5, we would really like to change it to 90 and 10. And so with making that not quite as much money, possibly, it's just thinking maybe at the temporary budget, we do the complete one and we'll know more what's going on, that some of these things maybe should just wait, like, we have 9,000, 4,001, 5,001 to building renovations and repairs to City Hall.
Right, that's, for example, the carpet in front of you, that's all wrinkled up, that's the stuff that.
I don't disagree it needs done, I'm just timing.
The bigger question on the 90-10, without getting into the detail of the line item yet on that, is you guys would have to find 80,000 from the general fund. So it's budgeted within $300 of deficit. So you'd have to find 70,707.
But when we did that last year, it was only gonna be for the 1 year. I mean, council's never changed it, right?
True.
It's been split. It's been split, I think, every year I've been on council.
No, I
And
mean,
this
the
year,
last year we
that's
changed
what
it
she's
from
referring
95
to.
to 5. It used to be,
Right, I think it's been
what,
changed every
85?
year I've been.
15?
No, it's always been
85,
15, when last year, we changed it to 95.5 just for that year.
Well, I'm talking to, I mean, Corey, I know, me and you were on council when it's been changed before to 95.5. It's been a pretty common thing.
You might maintain the split for at least the first quarter. Can we change it can we change it in the year, or does it have to start at the beginning of the year?
You can try to change it anytime.
Okay. I'm just wondering, because the beginning of the year is where we have a lot of our main expenses coming out,
Correct.
and any money's coming in.
Yeah, I don't disagree that capital is an important fund. And even if I disagreed it wouldn't matter, just to make the numbers work, we'd have to come up with 80 in the general.
Oh, but that's only on income tax, isn't it? That 80, that 95.5. Okay, so we're not gonna start receiving probably till the end of the first quarter anyway, probably.
Well, so
You should
most
have
of
it by
our,
April this year.
no, most
Yeah.
of our income tax comes through withholdings anyway, the vast majority, so it would impact right away, starting January.
Oh, from payroll, you mean?
Yeah, from Rocky's payroll, the school districts, the different things.
Well, I guess I was taking my lead on something you said about, like, with the Capitol, couldn't take any more hits like Church Street and all that stuff. But what happens to us when the streets do, like, you know, that does happen to them, and we need that money to pay it, then what are we gonna do?
So that's more of an operations question, I feel like, as far
Right.
as.
I guess I don't understand the question.
Well, the money has to come out of capital improvement, right?
Doesn't have to. Capital didn't used to be a grab bag, it's become a grab bag for whatever big project we have. But just like the new water project, we're running that through the water fund.
Well, it's just water.
Right.
Well, and actually, to be honest, a lot of our street work is probably gonna be water related in the next, year or so, or wastewater related.
Right.
Because as we're doing this project, you're gonna see probably potentially more breaks and stuff, so we're gonna have to be digging up streets to fix infrastructure.
Right.
Which is potentially where some of those funds are coming from. They become water and wastewater projects versus street projects.
The only non-water project that I'm even tracking would be Church Street.
Right.
So.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so, yeah, unless we had another situation like that.
Sure.
Yeah, then it would probably be a non-water related issue. But I'm kinda thinking, you know, maybe, we maintain the split now, maybe switch it after the first quarter, because that's really, again, that's where this is where I'm most concerned, is seeing what our actual revenue and what our actual, budget is gonna be for this first quarter, because this will be the true first quarter that we will have in the last 7 years.
So when do
So
we do
we're
that
really
one?
not
For
sure how
March?
that's gonna play out yet.
April, I mean?
Yeah, well, to be honest, I mean, the requirement the state requires is that we have to prove to the county that our budget's reasonable. The county approves it, a committee does it. It's mostly made up of county elected officials. We cannot set aside a budget for an entire year until they say, this looks reasonably within your capacity.
And what's reasonable for us at this point, considering, no, I'm just saying, what's considered reasonable for Nelsonville at this point, seeing what we've been through here, so, you
Right.
know, they may not even have a true grasp on it yet.
Well, the reason I say it is we can pass a full year's budget, you know, with the first meeting in January. We just have to, as long as the Budget Commission has approved it, which would typically be the first Tuesday of January, if I have it there in the mail, on like January 2nd. I mean, we can pass a budget going into January for the
That'll
full
give you
year.
time to get the bugs out, like the computer line and
Yep.
the trunk or
Right.
whatever.
So I guess what I'm saying is, we don't have to wait till March 30th to pass a full
Right,
year.
right, yeah.
It's just that we can't say, we know we're gonna spend all this. It's just a little quirk of the
And I
state.
understand your concern about the general fund being budgeted, you know, to within $300, and I understand that, I'm not trying to dismiss that, but I am on board with what Carl is saying about, it'd be nice to be able to rebuild that capital improvement fund up a little bit too, because currently, the momentum we have going on in the city, I foresee more projects occurring, you know, positive, you know,
But they still cost.
they still cost money, so it's.
Right,
yeah.
right.
That's another reason why we guys really hammer down on Mr. Hunter to do annexation. Cause that's gonna improve our tax base.
Well, in the way Scott and I, talked about this budget too, the way we tried to come up with it, after the department heads, you know, settled out everything they needed, it's written in a way that the capital improvement doesn't need solved in '21. So I don't want you guys to feel, if it was written the way it was this year, it would be gone by March. But it's not, the pressure is relieved a little bit. So I don't want us to get stuck in the weeds too much on an issue where the way it's written buys you 12, 15 months. So decision in November isn't necessarily, it's not an emergency, is what I'm saying.
So we can think about that after.
Yeah, I think, let's, because the other thing is, I just kinda wanna wait and see how we, you know, how we kind of start off and progress, and I think that,
And we need to do that.
yeah, I mean, it's, unfortunately, I don't feel like we have enough data behind us yet, to see. And the other thing is, we might get some windfalls, if you will, from restitution from alleged, you know, certain things that, yeah, so.
How could I forget that?
And that might help us a little bit too in some of our planning. But we don't wanna bank on that, so we just
Right.
want.
So, the FEMA floodplain expense, isn't it possible we're gonna have to pay for that again?
It just depends on what comes down. So right now, we're in a holding pattern,
Right.
and it's punted back over to FEMA for what they do. So last time we punted back to them, it was a 7-year
7
lull.
years.
So
I kinda don't think it's gonna be, but.
it's hard to say, and,
Well, with COVID going on, who knows?
Mhm.
Right,
Yeah,
it could take a long
yeah,
time.
that's true.
Everybody else is taking a long time, so they.
So we would just have to appropriate that from somewhere when the time comes?
Yeah, that's one of those things where, you know, it's kinda like the question I've gotten before about carrying over things from year to year. That's not really a thing, carrying over. This came up in the past, about this specific line item, you know,
Right.
the question was asked to me at council, well, didn't you carry that over from like 4 years ago? And I'm like, well, I've been here 4 months, but, but we don't carry over, the fiscal year ends and it's done, it's
Done.
gone, unless there's a request to keep it in there. And so there's nothing pressing that we see we're gonna be spending. I mean, it doesn't mean there won't be, but that's why it's not there.
Okay.
We don't even have an estimate of what that might even be.
no. The,
look like.
so I'm definitely not read into it like Mr. Hunter is. But from what I gather, our engineer that we have, who's now retired from even when all this started, you know, he just basically bills us for a very, very reasonable rate, behind, you know, to cover his time. I don't even know what involvement he would have. I mean, when that meeting ended, the city had their stance on where they thought it should be. FEMA thought they had their idea where it should be. We both gave our ideas why we believe we're right, and then it was left at that point. So the next step is for them to propose where they want the floodway, and then, it's up in the air what the procedure is after that, because the FEMA person that we talked to on the phone said A, B, and C, but the engineer, as soon as we hung up the phone, said that's incorrect, you have A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and H. Yeah, so I don't know exactly what that entails, but I would guess that any expense in there would probably be attorney fees, should we have to sue them, and, go down that rabbit hole rather.
Tell them we want the same deal they gave Athens. That the river comes down and it makes a hard right before it gets to the stadium.
That was certainly brought up. I was in there when, Mr. Hunter brought that up.
So the river comes down in Nelsonville, takes a hard, sharp right, goes around us and then back in.
Yeah,
So I'm with Carl on that, so we don't have to budget any funds for that currently. I'll tell you, in the past, that was definitely one of the best monies we ever spent, I think, on hiring that gentleman to help us with that process. But, and I would hope he would help us again, so,
And we
that may
already-
not even occur though in 2021, that may be a 2022 issue, so.
And we already spent, I don't remember what, but for his original services that began again this year, we've already written a check, so that may cover services for, maybe four, maybe, I don't know.
yeah, it was small.
I don't know, we don't really, I don't really,
I think we budgeted last year 10 grand, we voted on.
Yeah. Are you good up to now?
Oh, yeah. Hey, I'm right with you.
Well, the next one I'm gonna say, because I'm not sure how long it'll take, so we'll do that at the
Oh.
end.
Oh, well, which one do you want now?
I will say too, since we're on the
Yeah,
topic of,
complained.
attorney fees, Mr. Hunter let me know that, recodification, this is where the attorneys, or our case attorney, goes through and updates our city code completely to comply with state, federal law, and puts all the new ordinances from the last few years into a nice big thick binder that makes the code official. That doesn't happen every day, I guess it's a 5-year process. That was supposed to be done this year, but because the sewer plant project and all the change, it was not completed. He caught me in the hallway with Scott, it was just quick, 15,000 is what it was gonna cost this year, we'll have to make room for it somewhere for next year. So in your final draft, you'll probably see that too. It'll just be in Gary Hunter's line item.
So are you saying that's not included in the monthly fee we pay?
It was a quick you were there, it was a quick hallway conversation when
I wasn't?
you were following me to my
I
office.
was probably thinking about something else.
Yeah, you had 1,000 things going on.
That seems
I would've
like-
asked that question. I must have been not paying attention.
So what are we getting for $15,000 now?
Just the recodification.
Add new ordinances and how to revise code into a book, I guess.
I'll leave that question
So
on your
is
guys'
that something
side of
we
the
could take
table.
like 4,000 or 5,000 out of different funds, or does it have to come out of one specific?
It doesn't have to. We currently pay the city attorney out of 3 funds,
Yeah, I think
so it
so.
would probably be split 3 ways like that.
Has it, what does it cost us in the past to do that?
We'd have to go look at 2015.
Yeah, I can get you that question, or that answer.
I mean, I was on council then, but I just don't know what,
I don't remember. I remember being at meetings where it was talked about, but I don't remember.
with everything being electronic, you know, as it is now, that seems like an awful large expense, additional expense.
Yes.
Just gave off, or what?
No, we didn't do that.
Yeah, that, I just did the math myself on that, and that equals out to 100 hours worth of work based off the rate that's in the contract that we have with him. So, I'll be honest with you, I didn't pay attention in the hallway, so I need to follow up on that as well and ask exactly what does that entail? Does it really take 100 hours? I mean, that's 2.5 weeks of straight devotion to this. You can do a lot in 2.5 weeks, so.
Well, cause it all should be already, all that stuff should probably be uploaded already,
Electronically, correct.
right? I mean, isn't it? No?
No, I think the most recent you can find online somewhere in 2019.
New, it's even older than that. Are you talking about on the website? I thought that was 17.
It might even be farther back. I remember making copies for the auditors because they couldn't get it all online of our ordinances and everything, so.
Okay.
So,
If we can find out more information on that, that'd be great.
Yeah.
I would like to see if there's any objections. I would like to have the $1,000 put back in the community picnic expense, and then if we don't use it, it's just an extra 1,000. Does anyone have an objection?
I think it's a great idea. I think that, you guys had some pretty good.
Yeah, I think we had two.
We had two, and they was really great. Everyone really
And then,
appreciated
so this is the only year you didn't have it, right, because of COVID, so.
Because COVID.
And hopefully we have the opportunity to do that again
We
next
do
year.
our vintage trailer thing again.
Cause you guys had a lot of people attend, didn't you?
We did.
Okay, good.
So what are we using the economic development program for?
So what I wanted to do with that is to consolidate and upgrade the signs coming into town. So for example, you come in from the roundabout, there's about 6 different, signs that have different signs, you know, from Nelsonville, the Friendly City, to Chamber, to the Cross.
Churches and,
Right, so,
organizations.
I've previously talked to Wanda about the big bricks. I've talked to a fabricator about a big metal sign. I don't think $10,000 is gonna go very far, but we might be able to consolidate and get a start on it, and then maybe as years go on, add to it. So, that was my intent for that money.
And maybe 10,000 even gets you a match from the community, from something or somebody.
Absolutely.
Where do you wanna get the 1,000 from?
It would just be the unappropriated balance of the Economic Development Fund.
So change the economic development fund to 9, from 10 to 9?
So the line item I'm looking at would be from 0 to 1. Is that what we're talking about, adding money? We won't have to pull from somewhere, because the Economic Development Fund doesn't have any requirement to have carryover, and this budget would leave 6,000 in it. So you could just pull one more and leave 5,000 in it.
5,000.
Yeah.
Well, it has 6,000 for fireworks?
Yeah, right, so these are just imaginary numbers on the page, and then, like, hear me out.
Don't say that.
These numbers, listen, hear me out.
Okay, Stephanie.
Financial
Oh, here we go.
financial literacy moment, okay? So, these numbers, this is what we wanna set the money aside for. These are like drawing constellations in the sky. We're trying to figure out where these things go. The actual fund balances are not on these pages. So, Economic Development Fund has money sitting in it that's not sitting on this page, if that makes sense. So you could just take from the carryover of the economic development, 1,000 more.
So then it changed the bottom to 17?
Correct.
So down on 200, 150, 21, 600, the road salt, for the street, it looks like that went up from 10,500 to 25,000, even though you took 5,500 from a different line item, and then you have 6,000 in another, so that's like $31,000 for road salt.
We spent 50 this year.
We didn't need any this
That's a great point.
Yeah, but it's we're part of a deal where we had to
It's a great
supply a
point.
certain amount, though.
By the way, I took the risk and did not enter that deal for next year because our salt barn is overflowing.
Okay.
So if Snowzilla comes, I'm gonna have to come in here with my tail between my legs and ask for money because it costs more than the deal.
Yeah, see, last year, because we entered into that contract, we were required to buy a certain amount,
Right.
and we got a certain
Let
price.
me tell a story again, it's one of my favorites.
No story.
Let's move on. There's a one-sentence version, we needed so much salt, there was not even room, so they charged us a fee for not taking all the salt that we had committed to.
Cause we broke the contract.
And it was not a small fee.
$1,000.
year. Well, I'm glad you did not sign another contract. Just
There's
for
so
the
much
record.
salt. I believe.
Could we have not bought it and sold it to other cities, or, no, I'm just kidding.
I tried every way possible to get out of that. I even went down the road, what happens if I don't pay you, what are you gonna do?
Even if Snowmageddon comes, I still think we have enough for like 3, just
Yeah.
for the record.
The salt
We
barn
didn't
is
have
overflowing.
one or two storms last year.
Yeah, I know.
We had to borrow a piece of equipment from the contractors in town, cause ours weren't big enough to stack it, we have that much.
So maybe they need salt.
There's some in the little red truck with a plow on my desk.
Yes, there is.
When are you gonna add the black one?
Soon.
Actually, we could create a competition to see which one of the chiefs will put it on their truck first.
That's right.
Who wants to be the favored son?
I think we're gonna be good on plows after.
Yeah, good.
I thought I would hope so.
Well, the biggest thing is we have a fleet now that requires no CDL, which is a huge, before our limitation was CDL drivers, not equipment. Or, sorry, it was equipment, well, yeah, the equipment and driver, anyways, that's another topic.
Okay,
Problem solved.
perfect.
Carla, to answer your earlier question, since we're in the 200s series of funds, 200, 210, 20, 30, all street funds, I mean, this, if, in your question was, what happens if there's a Church Street example in 2021 where it's just atrocious and we have to take care of it?
But there's not going to be, just so we're all clear.
Right.
Sure.
Hopefully it's dry and sunny the whole year. And, this budget sets aside $180,000 for street repairs through the.
Time out, some of that's for paving, so that's why I said
Well,
we're not
that was
going to.
my next question, there's like 3 different places we have all this, and the potholes was always different from the paving. And this has it, where did I see it? This had it together somewhere.
Yeah, I don't necessarily think we need to have potholes and paving, though. That's kinda,
Well, we have
So I think in
Public
the-
road repair.
If I can speak as if I put my former councilman hat on, I think, since I was on the street committee when we talked about that in finance, we had to start doing that because we had such bad compliance from our city manager at the time. I think
I
Scott,
kinda remember that now.
we kinda had to like force feed the money, like fix the potholes, I
I
don't know if you.
remember that.
It's not how we described it at the time, but in hindsight, that's what
Yeah,
it was.
I actually.
So I think,
remember that.
in my opinion, I think Scott, are you aware there's potholes that need to be fixed?
There's 1 or 2 I've heard. By the way, our new pothole trailer has been ordered, it'll be here in about 3 months. The, hot box for the asphalt.
that'd be perfect for springtime.
Absolutely.
So we are going to come up with a plan though, right, to spend that, to get the most out of our paving costs?
Right, so the plan is to, twofold. I'm already developing a plan of which, parts to put out for bid, cause we're gonna go well over $50,000 to have an asphalt company come in here, so it's gonna have to go out for bid. So right now, I'm trying to put together a plan of all the different areas to fix, some roads, we could get by with maybe a 50-foot patch. When I say patch, I mean like, the full width of the road for 50 feet long versus redoing the entire whole road. I've been looking up in Frog Hollow, there's a couple areas specifically up there that would be good. Also looking in a couple different areas in town, but I wanna put out to bid, here, we need this repair here with all the measurements and everything else, so we can get legitimate bids, and then they only mobilize into town one time, because that mobilization fee is where they get us. So every time they have to haul their equipment into town, that's basically $5,000.
Wow.
So to avoid that, I just wanna have them come in and do it all.
10% of the entire project is just dropping it, basically. You
I
said
don't know that it's a
$50,000.
percentage, I think it's a flat rate.
Okay. So if you got them in town once and spent $100,000, it's better value.
Correct, and bringing them in 3 different times and spending
Gotta load
$30,000.
up the low boys.
But so I know you're wanting to get like the water and the gas and all that, so we can say though, this is a question, can we say for sure we will get some roads paved next year?
Absolutely, I want the citizens to know that we're taking it serious, and we appreciate them saying yes to the street levy.
That's what I
And I
wanna
wanna
make
smear as much asphalt as we can.
Now, is that the $180,000 that you budgeted in that line item, the new street levy included in that, or?
I believe so.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. It's, the street levy money goes in the 230 series, labeled street levy on here.
Now, can I ask one other thing? Can we make sure that we only pave streets that we've already fixed the pipes? Cause I hate to go back and cut it up
Yes,
later.
absolutely. They're coming into town sometime, well, it's almost over now, a month. They should be here by the end of the month. They'll be in town 4 days.
I mean, I'm all for paving the streets, but let's fix some infrastructure too before we pave.
Absolutely, that's why we didn't
Yeah.
pave this year.
I mean, like you said, Frog Hollow, so if there's nothing underneath those roads, all for it.
Yeah, and the boys were just up there a couple days ago doing some storm drain work, to divert some water from going across the road, which, you know, is never good for the road, but it was also washing out a resident's house
We're
up
gonna
there.
need to have that conversation about stormwater and utility.
Yeah, that'd be a utility meeting.
So, and when we also make sure that they do seal the seams when needed, cause I know that did not happen on a couple roads.
And I'll tell you, because of the new rules that we have implemented and with Jason's leadership from the, street department, the gas company, when they've gone by and impacted Fourth Street is a prime example, like they just took up the plates, they had a whole strip there behind Franklin Street
Yeah.
there. It's all sealed all the way up the road, it
Yeah.
looks really good, it looks better than Fourth Street did before,
Yeah.
and it's a patch, it's not an actual, you know, they didn't pave the entire road, but they patched it, they sealed it, and it looks really good, and it's real smooth, to be honest, so they did a really nice job, and a lot of that is because of leadership coming from Jason and, you know, saying, hey, we need to use whatever that stuff is to put in there instead of just gravel and, you
They
know.
actually took it a step further and put concrete
Yeah,
in
put
there.
concrete,
Did
yeah.
Okay.
Which is good.
So.
Yeah, it's less asphalt than we stated, but they put concrete, so it's not going anywhere. Their patches look good.
Yeah, and it's very smooth.
And they're sealed, and they can't get underneath.
Yeah, and just-
And that's where the problem lies, is when they don't seal them, water gets underneath, freezes in the winter, opposite.
Absolutely, and they're coming back to seal the trench that they did down Canal Street too, just so you guys know, that's on the punch list.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, that needs to be fixed down there.
I think they're still working on Washington right now, so that's where they have a little bit of work still. I think there's just some gravel in some of those holes.
The road is still closed, everyone, you will get a ticket for going on there, many have found out the hard way.
Oh, that intersection, Washington and Madison?
No, I'm talking about down on Chestnut, sorry,
Oh.
Chestnut Street, yeah,
Oh, I thought we were opening it one way, it's not open yet.
not yet, they're
Okay.
still testing the manholes and, working inside those confines.
Okay.
I mean, it's one of those, as soon as we open it up, it's gonna be a super highway, so they're just trying to get all their work done, they should be done hopefully the end of this week.
Okay, perfect. Good.
Anything, Dave?
Oh, did you turn the page?
I turned like five.
Well,
Do you have any questions, Scott?
No ma'am, I was just looking, it's still, nobody Missy out there, she's the only one.
And she hasn't said anything, so I assume we're talking louder now, so,
Yes.
okay.
So this isn't really a question, cause it went down, but I noticed there's a lot that's went down on contract services, like $10,000 and $20,000.
Yeah.
Oh, a couple different.
Well, some of that could be mowing and stuff like that we had budgeted in the previous years, and which we don't have a lot of that now, because we have a lot of our own folks, doing that
I
work.
thought maybe it was some of those contracts for like the printers and stuff like that we got rid
It
of.
might be.
Don't you start him on them first.
It
We
might-
still have the printers for a couple more years, they're not going
Well,
anywhere.
like
There
one
might
went
be
down to
stuff,
10,000, another went down 10,000, that's why I just wondered. I mean, that's a good thing.
There might be, I'm not sure, department heads may have found that they're using that money elsewhere than what it was set aside. I know in mine, the contract services, in mine, I'd like to change this contract/audit, because we use it just for audit expenses. We've had an incredibly expensive series of audits this year, so, I mean, maybe 67, I can't remember how much, but it's a lot, 65,000.
We have an audit every year.
And it should be usually 20 to 25.
We should have, shouldn't we just have an audit line item, instead of contract services / audit?
That's a good idea.
Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah.
We're in the business of less line items, Corey, so.
Trust me, but I
I'm
like
just kidding.
clarity.
Just kidding.
I
So-
like clarity, because I would rather have, we had miscellaneous and other and contract services.
Right.
And then you see what the city manager's office looks like, that was contract services, and it's not complete.
Right.
So,
Mhm.
I'm just saying.
Mhm.
Right.
Did he pay taxes on that?
I don't think
We can't discuss that.
Yeah.
That's an executive session.
Okay. Oh, is she done?
Yeah.
Okay, 720,
Oh, we got that.
plant improvements engineering, that's kind of like the city hall. Is that 15,000 that can wait on improvements, or is that
I think
like
that's
got to
one
do
thing,
with?
isn't it? Yep. I believe that's the water plant, and that's for the.
That's your well, isn't it?
I think it is the well.
That's the will, yes.
By the way, well two just was completed last week, they're still doing some wrap up, redoing the pump and stuff. but it's actually producing better water now than when it was new.
Nice.
Just a good update.
That's one of those line items too, Carla, that, Scott would like renamed to just plant improvements. I don't even think on the reports we make, I don't even think engineering shows up on it, so we'll make sure to rename that correctly.
It's a line item.
700, 720, 711.
You just keep flipping pages over there.
Well,
don't you?
they're empty.
There's not the others on it.
So did we hire a new person then in water distribution? To go up $44,000?
That's where we moved the guy's salary over.
Yeah, so, you wanna explain?
Sure, so, in 2018, you guys did an ordinance to consolidate them into a utility department. So now that they are a utility department, they are working together and we're getting more bang for our buck out of those resources. So 3 of the resources were primarily street funding previously. Well, what we did is we took 2 of those workers and paid half their salaries from the water because they're doing
Water work now, they're cross-training.
significant amount of water work. And,
That'll help our general fund out considerably.
well, that's how we came up with the money to do more paving as well. That was Taylor's idea, and, to me, it made perfect sense, so we can smear some more asphalt and pay our guys accordingly, so we don't have street funds paying for water repairs.
And that's actually a really good idea that you came up with about cross-training those guys now, because, you know, now you have, it really makes those guys more valuable, within the city, so they can work across department, you know, the multiple departments, and then if guy's on vacation, you've got someone who can help out because they've been trained in that area that guy may have gone to on vacation. So now you have that ability to do that. Plus, it also does help with the line item of salary, because the water and waste are healthier funds typically than our general. So that's a really good job. That's nice work. Good work. I actually thought, I forgot to look on this because I just thought of it when we were talking now. Did you create a line item, Taylor, for your anticipated, revenue for the, okay.
Abatement?
Abatement, yep.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So the thinking is, and this is my justification, typically revenues are revenue planning and banking and anything revenue. You guys decide what we're allowed to implement, and usually the auditor decides how to divvy it up and how to organize it. I'd be willing to talk about it more. I've mostly settled on it should go into the sewer program, and there's a reason. It sounds counterintuitive. The reason is that when we've adjusted this is not just under, my last 12 months, wow, I can't believe I've been here a year, feels like 10. But not just in my last year, but over the last 10 years or more, when they've adjusted for water leaks, that individual has said, you know, my, something busted and it just ran through the walls. It didn't go back down to the city sewer, so they adjusted the water leak in half and they paid nothing into the sewer because it didn't go in the sewer. So our water leak, policy for a decade or longer, in my opinion, has cost the sewer fund a ton of money, where the water fund still gets it because they have to pay off that remaining leak balance that goes into the water fund.
Right.
And that was that confusion at the beginning of the year, where I made a comment in the meeting about our adjustments are not being applied equally. Well, I figured out through further research, it's because of those sewer adjustments on water leaks. So I think it's fitting that the sewer fund should be replenished for the hundreds of thousands of dollars adjusted off over 10 or 20 years.
So it'll be under the sewer fund now, so then when a leak occurs and you pay out the one-time, you know, $500 is the maximum, is that what it is?
Mhm.
And then, so that'll come out, it'll still come out of the sewer fund then?
Yeah, that's how it typically works.
That's fine.
Does it say sound is still low?
Yeah, no, I didn't see it, there's also, we can come back to it, sorry, I didn't mean to derail you guys.
Oh, so, I'll try to speak louder, Missy, sorry, and all of our millions of viewers. So, yes, that's how it typically works. Corey, if there's a $2,000 water leak, which by the way is weekly, not daily, but not monthly, weekly, and let's say $800 gets adjusted off, most of that's just sewer fund, and so,
And if you haven't got a complaint yet, I usually don't do adjustments. You may have heard.
For anyone listening, the adjustments will pretty much go away, right? I mean, the abatement process is what we want you in. We don't want people saying, or not paying for the abatement as a protection, and then later saying, well, I still really want my adjustment, I got a water leak. Well, we offer a service to protect you and you didn't take it. So anyway, yes, it would be mostly safe.
Okay. Just wanna make sure, thank you.
So we do have a question that I missed on here somehow, I don't know if it came in late or what, but, it says 16 minutes ago, it says, has a new Mayor's Court software been implemented, and if so, will there be a year-end report, revenue / expenses for 2020? If so, when?
And who was that?
Greg,
Oh, sorry, Greg, that was Greg Clement.
Doesn't matter.
And yes, the sound is still low. Sorry, we're working, hopefully the IT guy shows up Friday. He's not very good, for the record.
Hmm.
So who's gonna answer that? Dan?
Yeah, so there will be a end-of-year report.
Your microphones are up, so that may be
Yeah.
part of the reason.
And, that's what the software does. Keeps track, makes reports.
But yes, it's been ordered, but no, it's not, implemented yet. It's not, been received, to my knowledge.
Has not been received yet, no. We're still giving that data to program into the software package. We give them all our fines, our officers, badge numbers.
Do we have
all that
a
stuff.
anticipated time frame when we'll get that?
I do know Nancy's working on that, I spoke with her today, and she's getting the information out to them, so hopefully we have it there shortly. Yeah.
Well, it'd be nice to have a mayor's court report anyway at the
Yeah.
next council meeting, so.
So, I've been looking at some of these, but this one seems to be the most, at the sewer plant, like on the fuel, a lot of it has went down. I'm concerned that it's just gonna come back later on in the year and have to ask for more money for fuel.
So you shouldn't have that problem this year. So the reason why it was so high was with the construction going on down there, we had our own diesel pump that we own. We also rented another diesel pump to run and bypass sewer into, so we had to pump it out of a manhole directly into the plant versus it going through the electric motor in the bottom of the plant. So it, maybe to refresh your memory, that's the one that was gonna cost that motor, it's my understanding the request for a new motor down in the bottom of the sewer plant was $10,000, and we didn't wanna spend the money back then on it because we were hoping we could limp it through. It actually ended up probably costing us close to $40,000 not doing that, and a lot of that was fuel, rental costs, and we actually ended up purchasing another pump. So tomorrow, today they attempted to turn on the new lift station. They had some problems, so tomorrow, hopefully they'll be able to turn on the new lift station, which, is the that was the big massive hole back in the springtime that was behind Advanced Auto down there, which runs off electricity, and there'll be no need for any of those diesel pumps anymore. There'll be no need for the electric pump in the basement. It'll all be controlled off that, the new lift station installed.
Okay. Any questions?
So that'll be electric then now, is what you're saying?
Yes.
So, okay, so our electric bills are gonna go up, but our, diesel costs will go down.
Is that three-phase?
Yes. I don't even know if the electric bill will change all that much because that old pump will now be shut off, the one in the basement.
Okay.
So it'll be, the new one's probably far more efficient, so I would imagine it's
Yeah,
probably
that
close to a wash.
The old pump was 208, wasn't it? Single phase?
I don't recall. There's 3 different pumps in the basement, and only one of them was still working, the other 2 are completely dead.
Well, I think it was 208 single phase, so if it was single phase, that draws a lot more amperage than a three-phase.
Good.
So.
Okay, so Taylor, is this payment gone then for good, that OWDA 2389 for $34,000? It's 757.761400.
750, 770.
I moved
Right.
on from that page.
Well, it looks like we're saving $34,000.
I do believe so. So we have, 24 OWDA counts or something, so I'm going off memory. But that either,
Well, it just
that
wasn't
either-
there, so that's why.
right. That either is paid or was rolled into something else due to the construction or something, I'm not sure. But I'll check on it.
Okay.
I'm sure it got taken out for a reason.
Is that one of our newer construction funds for this project, or?
I don't well, I don't remember, honestly.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't either.
There's, if you look here, there's like a dozen OWDA accounts, so it's kinda hard to go off memory.
Yeah, I don't remember looking, is our $29,000 payment for Jefferson Street still in here, Taylor?
Yeah. Oh, sweet, sure. For 30 years.
I sing a song every time I drive down.
Any more questions?
Let's see, thank you for the, okay, so this is from, well, it's from Missy, but let me see if it's Greg, okay. So this is from Missy, so here we go, thank you for the response, but as a citizen of this town, I don't think any question asked should be, addressed, by, imagine that comment. Sorry, but unprofessional and not appreciated. We take time to watch meetings and be a proactive part of the community, not to have the type of response to our participation. Missy. All right.
Okay, so it is only 8 o'clock.
I guess she didn't like my explanation.
Okay, so that's been you, I was like, is that?
No, that was me.
Okay.
We've only been here now.
I was gonna say,
I
shoot,
can
did I
take
say?
another hour.
No, that's all me, that's part of my day club.
Okay, back to line 100, 625, 41133, the 911 program.
Oh, yes.
You didn't think I was gonna skip that, did you?
Well, when you did, I thought that was curious.
Yep.
I don't know.
So, I just remember complaining throughout the year paying the 48, and then we're going to almost, well, not quite, almost double that. We should knock that down. I just think we need to work on that. 75,000 is too much when we complain constantly about paying 48.
Well, we're getting something for our services now.
That's
So
still too
you're
much.
getting 24/7,
Still too much money.
365 dispatching.
Still too much money.
So do we
So
cancel
put on a
that
dis-
contract and go
so
back to
put a
the county?
dispatcher on
I
in
don't
here.
know, I just want a
3 shifts.
conversation. Because we did complain all year about paying the 48,000.
Because we weren't getting nothing for our money.
If I could answer for
911 didn't do crap for us.
part of it, Carl, I mean, I think it's a valid question. When we worked with this number, Scott and I both worked with this number, cause I wanted to make sure, you know, go through my checklist of 2,000 line items, I wanna make sure they're all covered. This is kinda what I meant in our presentation last time about, there's enough room for a minute to be in our current situation where we have both contracts, but council's gonna have to decide pretty much in the new year or before.
So last night in committee, they moved to, cancel the contract with the county.
Correct.
Oh, okay, I didn't watch, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah.
So, I mean, so it sounds like council.
Definitely don't need 2.
Right, well, we currently have two, I mean, that's kinda why,
As of
I
the
felt
beginning of
it
the year,
was-
at the end of the year, so
Yeah.
just to be clear, so we don't get a letter stating that our contract is canceled.
right.
We pushed it to full council to be, canceled at the end of this year, which would be the end of our contract year. And then going forward, which we are in negotiations with, Hopping, with that fee, you know.
So it could be negotiated, you're saying?
Well, but it may be more, you know, more or less. We basically have, you know, agreed that we would split the cost, if you will, of, dispatch with them. But I agree with Dan, we're getting, price is what you pay, value is what you receive. We've been paying a lot of money and not receiving any value.
Correct.
We're at a point now where we may pay more, but we are receiving much more value. And to have responses, to our, you know, to our calls, They may be non-emergency, a dog's running through the neighborhood, but, you know, we had a lady, we talked a little bit about it last night, so I guess somebody got bit by a dog, and then our officer got bit by a dog. So the lady getting bit by the dog may not be necessarily an emergency, like call 911 kind of thing, but, you know, they called it, and it's a dispatchable call, which our chief is now have accountability over the officers, because he's got a report daily on all the call activity, and he can see, based on what they input into the system, hey, there was action items taken based on the call. So, there's much greater value to us and the citizens, you know, to the city and to the folks of the
I
community.
agree, I don't have any argument about the value, it's
Yeah.
just that if we didn't have the money for 48, how are we coming up with 75? I'm not arguing
Well, we
with
had the
what
money,
we're
we paid
getting.
it. But what we're saying
But
is.
all we did was complain that we didn't
Well,
have
yeah,
the
because we
money.
didn't get nothing for our money.
Mhm.
So,
But I'm not
911
arguing
in
quality.
911 in Athens, if you called 911 in Athens and said, hey, I had a dog up here, blah, 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 they would dispatch to the sheriff's department. Nelsonville calls in the 911, says, we got a dog out, blah, blah, running around. They'd say, call your local police department. It's not an emergency call. Athens doesn't pay a dime, we pay 48,000.
And the sheriffs do not tend to spend their time in Nelsonville.
Yes.
When was the last time you saw an Athens County Sheriff cruiser here?
Right, right,
That
so-
wasn't transporting someone to.
They
the
drop
jail.
a lot of people to jail all the time.
Yeah,
Take 'em home.
that's what I'm saying, not to
Yeah.
transport, not
So,
to
I mean, we
transport a
get-
prisoner to the jail, but they're not, I don't see them out on 278 or on, 78, you know, within the county.
Right. And to
Not-
clean
not
this-
here.
And to clean this town up, I mean, you have to have a dispatch.
Yeah.
The city surely can't afford to do it on its own, because then you're talking 3 shifts. Talking 3 shifts,
5 people.
yeah, at least 5 people, because you got, there's somewhere along there, someone's gonna have a day off. So 5 people plus benefits, I mean, it's a couple $100,000.
But I would, but back to your original question though, so this could be negotiable, I think all things are negotiable at this point. You know, I think, in this negotiation process, like we have, you know, and we probably should discuss more detail in executive along with our, you know, other labor contracts that were discussed. So, you know, we'll probably see hard numbers, I'm assuming, as part of this negotiation of what, you know, it's costing at this moment. That's, I think, why we're also taking that, that's why I think they were providing this service to us at no cost at this point, so we can kind of get a sense of what that expense truly is. So maybe that's something we can work on for the next council meeting, to have an executive and see those numbers and discuss that further.
Sure.
Well, plus we also have to reach out to Hopkins College to get next year's number anyhow. So,
Well, and I think from last night, we pushed that to
Chief
start
Timms.
that negotiation, and let's go ahead and see where we're at, because I think, personally, I've used the call, I've called quite a bit, you know, and I've been pleased with it so far. You know, I think the chief has been pleased with it, I think Chief Timms has been pleased with it, I think a lot of citizens that I've talked to have been pleased with the service so far.
Yeah, 'cause there's no number to call now.
I think that I've only had one complaint, which I addressed with Scott, and he's gonna look into it and take care of it, but, you know, other than that, it's been pretty on point, I think, so.
By the way, I have the answer for that.
Perfect.
I think you're just taking my question wrong, and my question wasn't the quality at all,
Okay.
it's just that if we don't have the money, and that's all we've heard,
Well,
and now we're gonna come up with more.
So we're gonna come up with.
So where are we gonna come up with some more from?
Another 20-something thousand, so they made the balanced budget with that number in there. But,
You
the
tell us
better,
balanced budget, right,
so,
Tyler?
so the better question is, correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't 911 gonna renegotiate
They were.
this year coming up anyway?
22.
22. So I know we're talking well over 100,000.
The first number I mean, you guys were all, I sent you guys all the emails.
Yeah, that's.
I think it was 200 and some was the first one, then they dropped it down to 130 and so forth. I guess I'm slightly confused, and maybe it's for the old hats that have been here is why I'm confused. I don't ever remember complaining about not having the money, I was always complaining about the level
Why are
of
we
service
paying
we
that?
received.
Correct.
And I don't think the citizens of Nelsonville should have to pay anything, to be honest with you. I think it's ridiculous that we have to pay for anything. because Gloucester doesn't have to pay for a service, Athens doesn't count, they're different, but none of these little villages or the sheriffs have to pay. Nelsonville people pay the same taxes that the Athens people pay, that the Gloucester people pay. The fact that we have to go find our own dispatching is absolutely ridiculous.
That was the story because we didn't do it at first though, right?
And-
That
but
was-
It's a 30-year-old story that just
Story,
makes
yeah.
absolutely no
And the
sense.
county
Well, and at the
commissioners
point,
can change that
at that
anytime.
point, we already had our own dispatchers, that's the only reason why we opted out. And when the dispatchers went away, then it should have been at that point, you know, put back into the.
We should have never gone
We
with
should have.
dispatchers.
Well,
In my opinion.
I think monetary, we could afford
I think we
it.
can afford it.
The service we're getting now for, if it ends up being 75, is a third what it would cost us, and it's been a great service.
Yeah, so
So-
If I
24/7,
can play-
365, you have dispatch for our police officers.
If I can play it's a rare act for me, but conciliator here, I think the three of you guys are saying you want a great product, and I don't think it's irreconcilable with Carla's point, she wants a great price. We've found great products at great prices before, so.
Yes.
I think you're really all on the same page.
I don't
It doesn't-
think we
that's
are.
fine.
You're in different parts of the page, you're on the same page, but you're in different parts of the page.
Yeah, and the actuality is, we don't have a hard number yet, we just, so. I don't
Hopefully
know
have
if
that
it
soon.
wants- Yeah, I don't know if it
I don't know that we'll have it in time for Monday's council meeting, though.
Probably not.
I'll try.
Did you get that TPS report?
You
It'll
know,
come in on sale.
it's with my stapler.
I need you to come in on Saturday.
So, I only have one last, I don't know, comment maybe, as to all this commotion that we've had over capital improvement in the past, not this year, in the past. But unless I figured wrong, it looks like the police department only takes $4,000 out of capital improvement. And all the complaining we've had, the fire department gets $69,000. So I'm not sure what all the complaining's about, but that's just something I noticed. What?
I have to,
I made a copy for you. You want a copy?
I'd love
so where did you, what was 69,000?
39, 15, and 15. Did I add wrong?
So the 39 was spread over 4 years.
Is that the pumper payment?
Yeah,
That's the pumper payment.
Oh,
police
okay.
There's the lease payment
cruiser
on fire truck.
didn't come out of capital improvement, the truck payment was coming out of the police department. Out of the 100, 100,
100
810, but yet the fire trucks are all coming out of capital improvement. I'm
Okay,
just saying.
well, because
With all
if
the
you remember correctly,
commotion.
one year we gave them $90,000. We bought a cruiser, beanbag
We got the
shotgun.
fire department stuff too.
Well, he has capital improvement back then,
Right.
so
right.
we didn't have to give him anything. If I'm not
Just
mistaken. we
saying,
just
they
paid-
should both.
They should both get capital improvement, I
There
agree.
you
All
go.
three of them should get like maybe 30 across the board and be done with them. And this is what you got. Don't
If-
don't come and get no
If
more.
it helps when you guys are going forward, and I tried to portray this the last time, but we were,
Well, because we paid for the other ones out of our,
Just saying.
we had a lot of information last time, but if you guys look to, so two things that'll drop off in 22, I know this is now another year forward. Two things that will drop off are the Wood Lane Bridge project, the Church Street repair. The deficit spending for both of those funds equals the deficit in the capital improvement fund. So not only does that speak a little bit to my point earlier that this fund doesn't need action immediately, it may need some looking at over the next couple of years, but as I said with the Church Street example, if we don't dump another $100,000 project, out of pocket expense, $100,000 in the capital improvement, there should conceivably be room in the future for you to divvy up. You see what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Okay. Some of these projects will fall off. The sewer vac truck payment won't be forever. The fire chief truck purchase was
Just for.
22, I think, it ends at 22. So there may be, going forward, if that's something you guys wanna do, there's definitely room to move forward. I don't know about today, but
Oh, no, it was just something I noticed, because I do that, you know.
So police on the top there, you got 40,000, fire, you got 20,000.
that's
Right.
the peacemaker twice in a row.
I don't know, I was looking at, Greg's question up there, I can't wait to talk
Do
about
we
it.
have questions? Sorry.
It's nothing related to what you guys are talking about, so I can wait till you're done.
Okay. So, these payments particularly here for fire, the pumper truck, do we know how many more years we have on that?
I think you said two.
2 more years?
The fire truck, I'm sorry, the chief's truck has
Chief's
2
truck,
more years.
Yeah.
The fire, so that was purchased the year I ran for council, I believe. Corey, if you may remember better than me, that was 2015?
Okay.
Does that sound right? And I think it's, do we pay those 10 years maybe?
I think,
What is that?
I
The,
think you're right.
the big fire truck, the actual,
So 50.
It's long, yeah, I don't.
So, okay,
it
we're
might
about,
be
probably
20.
about, yeah, that sounds about
But
right,
it's
so.
a 16 model, right, I think, if I recall. So it's
Probably
maybe
bought at the
16,
end,
do we-
probably
what is it,
bought
like
at the end of
ours?
15.
Yeah, cause it's $500,000 probably, it'd be
But
like,
when these are done, they're
pretty
gonna be
average for an
more.
apparatus.
I think it was bought.
Yeah, it'll be a new, it won't be that, we'll still have that truck, but it'll be a new truck, you know. Okay, about 10 more years on that, and then, fire
5 more
equipment.
years, I think.
The, equipment purchase, for the fire department, is it gonna be 15 grand a year for equipment? I'm assuming that's like gear and stuff like that.
Right, so the bunker gear is the most expensive thing he has to purchase, and that has a shelf life on it. I'm not sure what his rotation is, I haven't, dug into that level. I hadn't planned on either getting to that level, but that's typically broken hoses, broken fans, broken saws.
Well, and I think he started buying, even the actual gear, you know, the overalls and jackets and stuff. Annually, he was buying so many sets each year, because we had an incident one time where a previous chief came to us in February of the year and said, I need, all of our equipment is expired and is no longer in compliance, and we're like, okay, great, when did that happen? Oh, December of last year,
Right.
and then, oh, we need 90 grand.
Right, and
So,
everything I've talked to and Harry's indicated, he's well aware of, shelf lives. That actually changed back in 2010, if I recall, 2009 actually, maybe even 8. But, where they are only good for so long. So I know he's tracking all that. I know he replaces a little here, a little there, gloves, as I would do as well if I were in his shoes, so.
yeah, I would like to nail down that number, because if we progress that department like what he's envisioning, that's gonna be more gear that we're gonna have to replenish over time, and I wanna be able to budget that, but at the same time, I'd like to have a hard, firm number, because like, Carl and I were just discussing, you know, so we've got another 30 grand on a fire chief truck that we have to pay, and that'll fall off, but then we're gonna, like she's saying, we're gonna have another truck payment at some point when the pumper truck's paid off, or what other
Right.
one is.
I think the ladder truck is the next thing.
Yeah,
that was
so,
coming.
you know, and that's gonna be a
That's a
big ticket item, which is gonna be a big payment
Out of the capital.
out of the capital
improvement.
improvement fund probably, so it's like, you know, I get what she's, you know, concerned about, and, you know, that, you know, foresight is what I wanna
think we
get.
got 10 more
Sure.
years on the ladder truck, is what he said the other night.
Yeah,
Mm,
maybe.
No, I think it was only a couple, I think he said
No,
the
I know.
average is 20 years, and we're 2 years away from that, I believe.
So he said he could, so he, and correct, if I'm wrong.
I thought it was.
I thought he said
I thought another 10 years.
he's, so his ladder truck will be 30 years old when they're thinking about replacing that one, because they do take good care of their equipment. I think it was the other truck, the backup for 51, that was starting to break down. It had seals go bad in the tankers,
Yeah, the tanker.
some
Okay.
engine repair. I think that one was actually next on the list for replacement, which was a couple $100,000. But I believe the plan was that when 51, which is their main truck, gets paid off, that they would seek another fire truck to replace 51, make 51 their backup, then the new truck, the main one. And then I think there was a 10-year plan for Now, you gotta remember, Harry also writes a bunch of grants. So, I mean, he writes for several $100,000 grants to help replace his equipment. So, I mean, he tries to do his due diligence on that. And that's all I got to say about that.
Some of the smaller stuff, Carla. Some of the smaller stuff, not the big trucks and obviously too, but what I've seen in purchasing this year is a lot of the department heads are making it work in their current budget. So like, instead of coming to council asking for, what's a good example, maybe the safe in the police department that they just purchased, a giant safe, I actually don't even know what they put in it, I just
It's a
know
gun
that
safe.
What is it?
It's a gun safe.
Gun safe, okay. So, you know, that conceivably would last more than 5 years. Maybe in the past, they would have come asked you guys for capital, but he made it work in his budget he already had set aside. So, it's possible that efficiencies created by management will cover a lot of the smaller stuff, and the big stuff is what you guys were talking about, so.
Good.
So Harry, I was just waiting, Harry, so Harry threw it up here as well. He put up here, Carla, the capital improvement in question was $45,000 yearly. The line item was separate from the fire engine payment, the two are separate issues.
Oh, yeah, I know, I know.
Okay, yeah, just reading. The other question up here was from Greg. Greg Clement asked, could arbitration resolve the issue between Nelsonville and 911? You know, it's a really long story, Greg, but I'll give you the cliff notes. My first week on the job, myself, the police chief at the time, and even Corey Taylor over here, we all went to a meeting that was supposed to take, it had some sort of frequency, I think at the most annually, and it hadn't been done in over 10 years. And basically it happened because my predecessor, along with Corey and the previous police chief, were rattling cages to get in there to do something about this dispatching issue. And during that meeting, Commissioner Eliason is the one that chaired that meeting, and as they were going through it, you know, they just arbitrarily wanted to delete verbiage pertaining to Nelsonville. At the time, I really didn't know much about it, and but as that progressed through, the conversations progressed about getting this capability, because it's my understanding that up until just a couple years ago, all of our non-emergency calls used to ring into a phone in the back of the 911 center. Something changed down there, they got sick of answering that phone and turned that phone off essentially, so everything had to come to the city for, and then picked up by an answering machine, which everybody hated. So fast forward, we asked them what is the cost for them to do the non-emergency calls, and the first number they threw out just for the non-emergency calls was over $200,000. And I emailed the commissioners directly and 911 directly several very, very direct questions about level of service and requirements and numbers, and frankly, they just refused to answer my email. So could arbitration resolve? You know, the way that's questioned, could it? Anything is possible, but I can tell you that my entire experience with this issue, there is zero appetite on the other side to entertain anything that we have to say as far as price is concerned. Corey, you've been a part of a lot of those conversations. Did I misstate anything?
No, and I don't think that there was any desire to work with us on their end at all. And that's both from the standpoint of the commissioners, well, represented by Mr. Eliason, and I don't want to speak for the other two commissioners, they were not present, but speaking you know, for them was Lenny, who chaired that, as well as the 911 director. So there did not seem to appear to be any desire to really work with us on finding a solution.
Yeah, so, and even more to the backstory, it's my understanding that we were just told the number and there was no negotiation. And at the time we had nowhere else to go, so we were boxed into a corner. We had no choice but to pay the money and or not get the dispatching. So again, I don't know why Nelsonville even has to pay when no other community pays to have it done, and we just now passed another another increase, so everybody in Athens County is now paying more money for 911, and yet Nelsonville still having to come up with a sum of money, whatever that sum of money in addition to what all the citizens are already paying. Sorry, it's a bit of a touchy subject for me, but,
Yeah, because that, in essence then, what's happening is the county passed, a higher levy, which is probably generating more than the 48,000 that we were paying them. And so now they're doing that to offset the loss of the 48,000 from us. And I don't necessarily believe that anybody in the county is actually getting any more service than what they were previously. So.
I think they're up to 4 funding sources now.
Yeah. So
I think it's the-
hopefully that answered your question, Greg. In a nutshell, it is a very long story like Scott was referring to, so,
there's just one more thing I'm gonna throw in there, just 'cause again, it's so,
be nice.
Yep, yes, sir, I will be nice. So, the price of $48,000 was based off our population, which, they went off the 2010 number, which I believe was $5,300. And then it was a multiplier of,
5,300 people.
or sorry, 5,300 people. And then it was a multiplier of $9 and change. That's how they come up to the $48,000. So, essentially, for every person in Nelsonville, it's $9 and change each. It should be known that the EMS service, which is countywide EMS, they pay $180,000 for dispatching as well. When you divide that by the 67,000 people in the county, that's less than $3 per person. So I have no idea why EMS dispatching is less than $3 a person, but Nelsonville Police dispatching is $9 and change. And I'll shut up there.
Thanks, sir.
Was.
Okay, so, what else do you got?
I'm good.
Okay.
Right now, you guys.
Not me, good.
Oh,
Do we have any other questions, or?
You're welcome, Greg.
So,
Can I ask a
perfect,
couple-
so,
oh, sorry.
I was gonna say, yeah, I think this has been so far, I think it's been a very good meeting, and
No storytelling,
No storytelling.
stick to the facts.
it's an hour and a half.
My question is gonna be, one, how does the committee feel? Well, let me start big picture. How are you guys feeling about process? Do you want us to make the small adjustments and present to another finance? Or do you want it sent to you and we'll bring it to council? Or what are you feeling about process at this point?
I think personally, so that's a great question, I appreciate it. I think personally, for me, I would like to see another finance, because we have a few things that we still need to figure out. Hopefully we'll have more solid numbers in terms of our contract with the college, and maybe even, labor negotiations may be settled by that point. So,
Although,
I think the numbers would be a little bit closer if, so that wouldn't be this next council meeting, but the next council meeting, if we could have it before then. You know, I mean, does that make sense? Because I would hopefully like to see some numbers more ironed out that are a little up in the air currently.
Yeah, these are softballs, thanks. I was expecting much harder from you guys.
No, well, but here, okay, I appreciate that.
All right, let's throw it down.
So no, okay, so now you asked for it.
You ain't got too easy.
Okay, so the reality is this, okay, we've had, you've made our job easier because you've come to the meeting a little bit more prepared, than we previously had, okay? That's from an auditor standpoint, but also from a city manager standpoint, since we actually have, you know, someone who's worked with budgets and within budgets before, so, and you've worked with each of your department heads, some of them probably unwillingly, you know, wanting to spend that time with you to go over it, but, you know, nevertheless, got it done. So, I think it's a little leaner, I think it's a little meaner, and I like it. I like cutting out a lot of the fatty tissue, being more poignant on where the money's actually going. I think that's more transparency for the citizens. So, at the end of the day, I think that you guys have done a lot of the heavy lifting here, so for us, it's just kind of perusing and tweaking. You know, I don't think it's a lot, you know, so.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, so but personally, I think if we could hopefully iron out by the next, you know, meeting or so in council, you know, some of the I don't know if the labor negotiations, how close we are to the end of those. I don't, I'd like to have more information as far as Hocking College. We just kind of initiated that ball rolling last night, so, at the end of the day, those are gonna be huge numbers. Now, if we get those numbers down, and that the benefit the city, more as far as maybe uniform or whatever, stuff like that, doesn't mean it's gonna necessarily go in another line item. Maybe it's just, more money that we get to kind of pull back and start building carryover again, would be great. If that makes sense. I don't wanna necessarily spend it. I'm not a person that believes in spending everything in your line item just because it's there. I think that, you should try to not spend it, because then, that potentially gives more money for future projects and things that come up.
If I can say, I've told Scott this, and I'll say again, I've been thankful that, so Scott and I's positions are in opposition to each other in many ways, the way they're designed. But I've been thankful that even though we have two very clearly different goals for the city's finances, and that's not to say either one's wrong, because Scott's goal is to provide the best service, my goal is to make sure the city is financially stable. Those are an opposite, right? Because to have the best service in the world, we'd have to spend $1 billion. And to save all of our money, we'd have no service at all. So this is my way of saying our positions have different goals.
Well,
but
your
we
goal
work-
is not to spend any money, and his goal is to drive more revenue, so,
Right.
there you go.
So I've been thankful, because I've been open with Scott that my personal, big picture goal for my term here is to put the city in a position where if there's an economic shock, a major employer loss or worse, that the city's not laying off people. We get the news April 1st, we're laying off people May 1st. And last year, we would have had to have done something like that. When the prison shut down, we were immediately making personnel changes because we could not absorb the blow, even 60 days later. So I've been thankful that we've been working together really well, and that council seems to be very agreeable with a lot of the things we both together and separately have put forward. And the goal is to provide the best service and still have money in the bank. I know government shouldn't have a ton of money in the bank, but it should have something, because if we can't stand on our own on one leg for 20 seconds, then we really haven't prepared the city for all scenarios, right? So
Try to be fair, we've taken a lot of hits.
we have a ton.
Mhm.
A ton. I think when the charter has some language in it about a financial report for the year has to be presented. We haven't talked about it yet, but when we do present it, I think you guys will see we're already on the pathway to stronger footing, and having that emergency reserve and, expanding the services that people need. I think, is that fair?
Yep. And I just wanna echo, it's the department heads that, they did the work. And, Taylor put the meat and potatoes together. They got organized it how they wanted it on the plate, and then Taylor polished up. It was also very helpful having council experience, and ideas that, may have been tossed around by all you guys before. Now that we're, moving half the salary to the street workers to water and being able to pave more, that was genius, He was halfway through describing what it would do, and I'm like, why don't we just do it? I didn't care what else he had to say, just do it. And not being facetious, so, the crew, the team out there, they did a fantastic job going through. We don't wanna throw you garbage. None of us have any interest in that and wasting your time. So, you're happy to glides is what I see here, and then just some more firm, that's easy stuff. I appreciate it, and, those are easy questions.
I seriously don't wanna, sound like I was throwing the department heads under the bus.
No.
They didn't wanna, participate, but I know they had a lot of other things on their plate that they probably would much rather be doing, but, this is just equally as important, for us going forward, so.
We'll have jokes at your expense behind your back tomorrow.
I'm already used to it.
Just kidding.
It's okay.
Is he hard?
It's,
Yeah, that heart is gone now, huh,
Won't be
buddy?
won't be the first, won't be the last.
Well, and I'm gonna take my storytelling moment, sorry. Dave.
Oh,
God, here we go.
But I just wanna say
Yeah,
that
just get comfortable.
for
There
the
goes that hour and 20 minutes.
For the value provided to the city taxpayer, let me just say, I believe the auditor's position as a small city, this is most important part of the year for me, is to make sure that the product that comes out of this process is right. The hardest part for the department heads next year is to make all of this work, and I don't know how to do that at all. But I do want to say, for the value for the taxpayer, I can say with certainty that a certain former deputy auditor had a large hand in budgets in the past and making sure where stuff she wanted was in there, and where she wanted it was where she wanted it, and it was a product really that, well, I was on council, it just wasn't good. It just wasn't good, and so I just wanted to add that for the taxpayer, I think this is probably the easy part. I hate to see how much work Jason's gonna have implementing a $3 million water budget and a $1 million sewer budget. He's got a ton of work.
And he's not even in the top 10 paid salaries in the city, just saying. That was
So that's
shameless.
supposed to be what?
That's a shameless plug for the, utility
That is
committee.
pretty shameless.
Shameless plug.
Well, this is the best out of four budgets that I've seen.
You'll see what we get paid.
And I don't know if you remember 2 years ago, the budget, I had like 30 sticky notes along the side that they needed worked on.
Yep, oh, I remember.
I only had like, what, 5 on this one?
By the way, I'll plug for Jason, if we're gonna hire someone else in the city, I think his department's probably gonna be the one that probably needs it the most as far as, I know that Chief, Fitch has already, give up a lot of, line items on his side to be able to get another officer, but, I think on the street side is probably where Jason's probably gonna need the most help, and obviously they work water and sewer, but I've just seen the whiteboard in Scott's office, and I know that Jason has beat
Oh,
on his
geez,
list.
he's gonna be in my office whining tomorrow. Do you hear that? No, just kidding.
See, look at this, it's already starting.
Yeah.
It's not even gonna wait.
I don't wanna hear it, Jason, just get it done.
We have another question?
Do we,
No, there was just another comment out there from Harry. He was talking about his, pickup truck being $1,300, or $13,000 a year. And other than that, there was no other questions or comments from anybody out there that I see.
So, did we have some budget in there for seasonal?
No, we didn't throw it in there.
I don't think I saw that.
We didn't, Jason and I disagree. I'll throw that out there up front. I think that if you want to add a seasonal, there would be huge value add. I could tell you that they'd be planted in the street sweeper. Cause right now with the 2 crews being combined, they are extremely efficient at getting water repairs done, and the water repairs have not let up. They fixed that water line on Chestnut Street, the contractor broke countless times. I can't even tell you how many times, they done it. We were joking today, and it's not a funny joke, but we probably spent 20 grand just in repair pieces and man hours on that line this year that wasn't planned at all. And the first thing that gets cut is the street sweeper, and then the second thing that gets cut is mowing. What I mean by that is priority list.
So, I thought, and it's just an idea, that if you hired a part-time seasonal person, preferably somebody that's retired, that.
We'll put them to work.
Yeah, so basically, to put in a street sweeper, and just middle of the night or something, or whatever the schedule may call for, to do that, and then if you put a second part-time seasonal employee on just for the summer, to help mow grass.
Is that a selfish plug for Johnny Mac?
No. God, no, I wouldn't let him run the street sweeper.
Right?
Or if we start a little prison in the back, we can have some free,
We were talking about that.
Road work.
yesterday.
so.
was that a shameless plug for a
Yes, it
jail
was.
levy?
Yeah.
I'm just saying, was that a shameless plug for a jail
I
levy?
think it sounded like one.
I think that we unfortunately
I
keep
would
getting
vote
turned
for it.
away, the judges and the, prison seem to be, the jail seem to be, turning away a lot of folks that continue to go on the street and create problems.
Correct.
So.
I don't even know why the sheriff does the 10 most wanted anymore. I can give you the address of where they're sitting at.
And unfortunately, they pick them up, we pick them up, we take them over there, and
And they say,
then,
"Nope."
then they let them go.
Yep,
So-
no room at the end,
Might as well not even do it.
so, it's, so, I'm gonna work with Chief though to try and put a number together so we could see what that realistically would look like, because we got that, this street department, I believe, right? building
Street
out back,
building.
yeah. So it's already halfway fenced in, so you need a center separating wall. Plumbing's already in there, so you just basically cut slab up, put plumbing in. You only need, one toilet per cell, 10 men in one huge cell. Or 10 women in one cell, 8 men in a different cell. There's a ratio in there, like, so many men, so many women. You need 2 suicide cells, a small commissary, and a shower.
We've been looking at the Middleport model, I mean, this is a ways
But, you
down the
know,
road, but.
It's a community shower where you put several heads in.
So we started looking, was it 2 days ago, we looked at numbers at the Middleport, cause it'd be about the same
We
size.
tried finding them, but we
Yeah.
were talking numbers.
We were talking numbers, there's still just a whole lot of variables and data to be collected, you know?
Mhm. Well, I look forward to those future discussions, so.
Yeah, 'cause I think it's something definitely a need for the city, for sure.
How do you-
You know, we rent beds too.
My goal with this process personally, I think Scott agrees, in our conversations, is to earn a full stamp of recommendation from you guys when this is done. So I wanna ask you, what's the committee feel like as far as passing the budget as a fund level instead of a line item level?
I'm personally for the fund level.
I'm for the line item.
Yeah, I don't think we're gonna run into issues that we did before, honestly, and I don't think it's necessarily going to be less transparent at the fund level. It just allows more flexibility from the city manager standpoint to be able to, work with his department heads on, you know, making purchases of things that they need. And I'm okay with that, because I don't think that we necessarily have to appropriate every item, and especially the smaller items. So, and I'm okay with that too, as long as, I know you're
Smaller
concerned,
items should
but.
be in like operating or, I mean.
Yeah, but the thing is, smaller items is, say you have a $500 item that, you know.
Like the indigent expenses, yeah.
Yeah.
That should
So, yeah,
have
so,
a fund for.
so then you have to appropriate
So
those,
that
and
you
they're
all plan
getting
out
approved
now.
by the budget commission down in Athens and stuff. So I think that, you know, and I know you're concerned, Carla, so that's where I brought up that point, that, you know, a solution is if the city manager then reports on, you know, well, we didn't have this budgeted in a line item, but we moved from another fund to purchase, you know, an item.
I guess to a
But-
point, as long as there was like a.
I still like to see the line
Amount,
items,
you know.
but,
The line
again, I
items would
agree,
stay.
as long as you're moving within, this department wants to move a little bit around
Mhm.
to their own line items, I'm okay with that.
That's exactly
Yeah,
what it
yeah,
would be,
so-
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well,
we would still have every line item that they
Right.
put on the
Yeah.
budget today.
I don't want this
correct.
line item,
But if,
so, okay, we're not using it, let's pull it out of here and stick it in the general fund, and then
Exactly.
get soaked up somewhere else.
correct, so if the chief, so police department, if it's, what is it, 848,000 or something, is, what's our?
The police department budget?
Yep.
Yeah, 860 or something.
Yep, so if it's $860,000 on the fund level for the police department, you still have all those line items where we kind of originally, you know, budgeted, but what it does is it allows them to move within those line items under
Right.
his 860,000. If he is going to go over that 860,000, it's coming to us for appropriation of funds, so, you know, but it's, you know, it allows them to be able to maneuver funds within that $860,000 that we've already approved.
A perfect example of a piece of legislation you guys did recently was for the fire department. We moved some money out of this fuel line item into repairs line item. So ideally, yeah, $3,000, ideally, that could be a report that I provide to you of what moves happened after the fact versus doing a whole ordinance, reading it and so forth.
So I'm good with that,
Well, we
as
just-
long as it's in your city manager report, like, okay, so we moved this to here, but within that department.
And here's the other thing too.
Well, to be
So-
fair, we could, I mean, since the moves happened in my office, we just attach it to the back of the auditor's report.
Yeah.
To be honest. I
There
mean,
you go.
We just print a report and
So the
you'd
other.
have to come to me for it anyway, I guess what I'm saying.
The other issue with that is not only are we passing all of those slight changes in $3,000, because in a budget, what our city is, $3,000 is not a large sum of funds.
Call
But,
them mouse turds?
but,
Yes.
if we, the other issue though with the legislation that we do for every one of those though, is we're also passing all of those on an emergency typically because we're trying to, or under the suspension of the rules, because we're trying, well, here's the thing, we waited 2 weeks to have a council meeting to be able to appropriate those. Well, first of all, we had a finance meeting to discuss it, police and fire, finance meeting, and then took it to, council to appropriate those funds, and oh, by the way, we kinda need it, yesterday versus, so now we need to either suspend the rules or do everything by emergency. So it alleviates a lot of that too, because it's what should happen is the department heads are holding their guys accountable, the city manager is holding the department heads accountable to ensure that stuff doesn't happen. Taylor's there to, checks and balance it all, and we're relying on, them being good stewards and being more transparent, which is, proof is in the pudding, so.
Right.
Yeah, I don't wanna come ask for more money outside this budget unless something happens.
Right.
If we have a massive disaster, fire related, and we destroy 10 bunker sets, of course I'm gonna have to come to you guys for an appropriation to buy new bunker gear. Same for police and Jason,
Correct.
If we have unforeseen stuff, this summer has been incredibly educating in terms of the contractors' work in town and what that entails and what the rest of the sewer project's gonna look like. No education's free, and this one was definitely expensive. I don't want to ask for more unless something crazy pops up. We already know of a potential problem with next year's project to do the water meters. We're trying to mitigate that now, but there is, foreseeable, that could be something I have to come to you folks for later. Hopefully not, but right now, that's just an example. But coming and asking for more money for fuel at the sewer plant, if I have to come do that, in my opinion, if I were in your shoes, I would want an explanation why.
Should we say no then?
I'm just saying, I would hold me accountable to explain why. Why didn't I get it right in my budget to begin with, And, cause I don't wanna make moves, even the behind the scenes moves that he'll put in his report. Anytime we have to move, that means he's got something wrong. So, to reduce those as much as possible, I get it some places, and then toward the end of the year, the fire trucks, they always seem to break toward the end of the year, at least this year they have, pulling fuel money over to do repairs on the fire truck, that makes sense to me all day long. Why wouldn't we do that? That's a smart thing instead of coming and asking for money.
Well, and to be fair though, I mean, first quarter will be the first quarter we've had, legitimate quarter we've had in at least 7 years. So, I foresee we will have other things appropriated during the course of the year. We just don't know what they are at this point, because we don't know what's legitimate expense and what's not at this point. So we'll work through that. That's, that's a learning process for all of us, I think, at this point. So, but we'll see. We'll make adjustments as we go. I just think that, like Carl is saying, I think this is definitely one of the nicest budgets I've seen. So.
Gets a little cleaner.
Yep, so.
Not a whole lot of others. Miscellaneous.
Yeah, even the guys have line item detail for their operational spending. I asked them to put together, whatever your operational budget is, what do you plan on spending? Now, that's not something that's gonna be out here for everyone, but, I hate the idea of just having a dollar amount halfway through the year, the good idea fairy comes about, and we go buy a fully automatic pistol again, or a sniper rifle. I don't know why we did that, but, to me, it's have a plan for the money you have, base it out so you know what quarter you're gonna spend what, and make sure we stay on track.
Well, I don't know why we bought beanbag shotguns. We don't have that many riots in Nelsonville.
No comment.
Good. I'm good. Anything else?
I'll double check up here, I don't think so. Nope, nothing else.
Okay. I'm good.
Dan,
Oh, I'm good.
Scott,
Good to go.
Taylor,
I'm good.
Wonderful.
call this meeting to order